Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports. It is our weekend program, Saturday Sports Special to be exact. Warm welcome to those of you joining us from wherever. Well, I say warm because depending on where you are, it'll be very, very warm. Depending on where you are again, it might be very, very cold. Yes, especially in North America, especially on the eastern side where we are expecting blizzard conditions on this weekend, Sunday into Monday. Yeah. But as indicated, our program this weekend, we'll be dealing with the CARIFTA Games 2026 taking place in the Spice Isle, Grenada, April 4th to the 6th. And as they say, sometimes big things go on, So we'll be speaking to some of the big wigs, as we normally would say, regarding the CARIFTA Games. The president of NACAC will be joining us, the organizational delegate, Mr. Brandon Williams. He's no stranger to Grenada of recent. I think he's given Mike some competition in terms of visiting Grenada. He was in Grenada recently, and he's in Grenada today. And also Mr. John Blackburn, he is the technical delegate. He'll be speaking to us. I think he's somewhere probably at the stadium, the Kirani James Athletic Stadium, or somewhere between the hotel and the stadium, and he'll be joining us as well. So thank you, gentlemen, for being part of our program. And also my co-host who's in Toronto, Mr. Rudian Sylvan, will also be joining me. Once again, thank you very much, gentlemen. Good afternoon to you, wherever you are.
Good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to join you, Mike and Rudian. Thanks for having us.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
Yes. Okay, so Mike, let's get things rolling. I guess as much it's first time on the program with Mr. Blackburn and Mr. Williams, I think, yeah. But Mike has been a very regular visitor to the program. Since its debut back in, probably 6 years ago. Mike has been with us. But as a start, Mike, how would you assess Grenada's overall readiness to host CARIFTA 2026 at this stage?
Well, Mike, as I said with the LOC yesterday, when we were here in 2024, none of us would have imagined that we would have been here so quickly again. But thanks to the support of the Grenadian government and the LOC and the Federation and be the Victor Bruno and her team, we are here again because they've graciously accepted our request to host the championships. And so Grenada is no stranger to the event, and we look forward to a very, very successful event. When you invited me on the show, we had the plan to be here for the site visit and the meetings with the LOC. And so I thought it was only be appropriate to invite the organizational delegate, Brandon, and the technical delegate, John, to really be a part of the program and actually to allow them to speak with you and your audience on the state of readiness, because they were the ones that were meeting and going right down the details with all the organizing committee. So I yield to them. I'm satisfied, and I can tell you everything that's going on. But because of their respective roles, I'm satisfied, and I will allow them to give you a basic update as to, what their views are on how we're going with the planning that is some 43 days away.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for being on the program. So, if probably I may just throw this out, what are some of the probably key benchmarks that must be met between now and games time, April 4th in particular? What are some of the benchmarks that must be met? I know you have been meeting with the various committee members from the LOC in Grenada.
Yeah, to meet any benchmarks to meet, if the games were to be held next week, I think Grenada will be ready to host the games next week. That's how ready they are and prepared. As Mike indicated, we are here to basically have not only site visits, but to speak to the various leads of the various subcommittees within the LOC. So we did with the accommodations committee, transportation. We also met with marketing, accreditation, and they're all up to where they need to be prior to the games. It is now just waiting on the data from the other member federations to really fine-tune how many rooms will be needed, the amount of vehicles, if there would be any additional vehicles for transportation. But I can say that Grenada is in a state of readiness. and that is due to or attributed to the experience of the LOC. Some persons have been on the LOC or have been a part of the organizing of CARIFTA Games from since the first edition held in Grenada in 2000. So that's 2000, 2016, 24, and now 26. So as the organizational delegate, I can say Grenada is well advanced for the hosting of the games during the Easter period.
And let me say welcome to Mr. Blackburn, who is the technical delegate. Mr. Blackburn, but how critical would you say is the condition and the certification of the track and field surface at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium for a meet as important as the CARIFTA Games?
Well, having an acceptable or an excellent facility is critically important to allow the athletes to perform at their very best. And the equipment here, we think, is ready to go. They have a number of competitions through the season, culminating with CARIFTA. So the officiating, the other technical logistics types of things that happen at the various competitions. With CARIFTA, we add in a number of additional protocol type elements that we've reviewed this week, and Brendan commented that things are ready to go. And I think there's no doubt that the technical aspect is also ready to go.
And while we're at it, beyond the stadium, and I'm referring there to when we say the stadium, it will be at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. What logistical areas typically present the biggest challenges? Like accommodation, we have transport, we have security, and all these other aspects. What would you say, create the biggest challenge for hosting an event as the CARIFTA Games?
Anytime you go to a big meeting such as CARIFTA, making sure that the athletes are there before the start and getting them moved through the process. We can set up the process. So it's an important cooperation between the LOC and the Grenadan organizers, as well as the competitive teams, that they're following the instructions that have been communicated to them.
And Mike, if I may add to that, Mike, Brendan alluded to it, right? The fact that we are so comfortable with Grenada simply because it's not the first rodeo. So let's start with that. Secondly, they did it 2 years ago. And thirdly, and perhaps more importantly, is the fact that the level of expertise that heads the organizing committee is compared to none. When you speak of Charlie George as the senior advisor, when you speak of Vida Bruno, right, who is the chair of the LOC, you speak of Aaron Moses, who is the deputy chair. You speak of Desiree, who by chance or otherwise serves as a PS in the ministry. Vida, as a former PS, Conrad Francis is the president and knows the technical situation inside out. NACAC Athletics and our area could not ask for more expertise from one body to put on an event that is not the first time that they're putting on. So we're very comfortable. I wanted to show you from the other side how comfortable we are that I'm sitting in my room looking at this beautiful ocean, and we're just waiting for the like Brendan said, we're ready to start. All the rooms are available. We're just waiting to get the final numbers, which is the 16th of March, from our member federations, and we're going to ask them to ensure that they comply with the deadlines to keep the process on an even flow. So we don't see any logistical challenges. We don't see any major challenges, just for the athletes and the federation to comply, and then everybody starts showing up so we can have a wonderful 53rd edition of the CARIFTA Games back in Grenada 2 years later.
Right.
And just
go ahead,
to add,
Brandon. Yeah.
Just to add, in most major events that you attend, three of the main challenges that you may face is one, accommodations, food and beverage, and transportation. And to date, Grenada, the LOC has secured all the rooms for athletes, so deposits have been paid. They have entered agreements with contractors, that is transportation contractors, and also having overflow just in case the numbers increase. Because yes, we're looking at the final entries for March 16th, but we may see an unprecedented number of persons attending the games, basically surpassing previous years' numbers. So Grenada has anticipated that and procured more transportation service providers to ensure that they don't go scrambling around before the games to get more taxi operators or buses to move the persons from airport to hotel, hotel to stadium. And also food and beverage, we had the opportunity to review even the meals, the type of meals that will be provided by the hotels to the athletes, and one that is of international standards. So I think it's just another experience these athletes will get when they come down to CARIFTA Games. And I feel sorry for the next host, whoever decides to raise their hand for the next couple games, because it's a tall order to follow once you leave Grenada, once everything is executed over the Easter period.
Yeah, and gentlemen, I've been covering the CARIFTA Games since back in the 80s, right? The late 80s. And I can't recall that level, based on what you're saying, that level of preparations for CARIFTA Games, and especially with Mike, that new focus of ensuring you have your organizational delegate and your technical delegate going in so early, right? And doing all the necessary consultations and things like that. So the question now is, how important is, the early operational testing and simulation before the games?
Well, I'm sure with Mike, John is here. There's a big meet that's going on. I think the early testing, for example, has to do with the events, particularly from the technical perspective and the officiating. And of course, we'll have international officials that will generally oversee. But we've got your local officials that are very much a part of it. As I indicated, we're all aware that Conrad Francis is by strength a technical person. And so those parts of it are in place. When we ask questions, it was not even, as I said to Brendan and John, right, and the LOC, we're not asking the question, if for any lack of confidence on our part. We're just trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And so it's almost like, because we've done it over and over, it's like riding a bicycle. You don't forget. And I have the utmost confidence in the LOC because they're way ahead of us. They're way ahead of us. Brendan mentioned about alternate plans or whatever. For example, not going to go into the details, but the transportation indicated some things to us that gave us a huge level of comfort in terms of the state of readiness in the eventuality. So they have been anticipating any eventuality may happen. And again, that goes back to the level of experience that is spearheading the organization. So, we could continue to watch the ocean and the waves come through.
All right, Rudian?
Yes, certainly it's a pleasure again. Brendan, you mentioned that the Grenada delegates and they're ready to have these games next week. But that's how we are as Grenadian. We're ready. You give it to us and we on point. So if you guys feel as putting Grenada name for the next Olympics, we'll be ready too. You just put it out there. Certainly, Mr. Sands, we I think I asked that question before. Brendan alluded to it that Grenada is setting a tall order for the next country or the next host. You ever thought of maybe if it's possible that one country can host for 2 years, which give the next host 2 years to plan? If that's something you guys ever thought about, it makes it easier for you guys. But I just want to ask that.
Rudion, let's put it this way. We found ourselves in a situation in Grenada where we didn't expect to be. As I indicated at the opening, right? If anyone had told us when we were here 2 years ago, we'd be back here, it couldn't have been imagined. We had actually, the games were actually awarded to member federations leading up to 2026, 2027, 28, right? But for whatever reasons, and we had a very lengthy debate on this yesterday with the LOC, right? It is becoming increasingly expensive to host the games. Okay. And the challenge for NACAC Athletics is to find member federations that are capable and willing to host the games. And you and I, we talk about this over and over and over again. Equally important, more important, is to find a long-term sponsor. We need a long-term sponsor for the events that we can say, hey, the games will be held in Grenada for the next 2 or 3 years, in the Bahamas, in Trinidad, and hopefully very shortly in Dominica and the likes of our small member federations. Because what we find, particularly in this area, our attendance is higher because it becomes economically viable or more economically viable for our member federations to attend. And what is troubling for me, for the most part, the world knows, we all know the level of importance that CARIFTA has played in the development of our sport that has gotten us on the world stage. And I shared with John and others, right? Every athlete in the area aspires to make his country's CARIFTA team at the beginning, which is their coming out, on the regional stage. When you go and when you look that we were doing this for 53 years, the longest serving junior championship anywhere in the world without any break except for COVID, right? It's hard to imagine why we cannot find sponsors that are willing to come on board, but we're taking a very, very deliberate approach. As soon as these games are over, we've got some stuff in the pipeline, and we're really hoping and praying that we can find a sponsor, directly to your question, or sponsors collectively, that we can say, okay, CARIFTA Games is going to be held here over the next 2 or 3 years. That is our hope.
And certainly we had conversations in the past, and I was supposed to give you a call yesterday, but I got so busy. But we'll talk about concerning the same sponsorship. Like I said, we have discussed that I do have somebody that we can talk about putting some stuff together. But me and you will have a conversation on that, certainly. Now, not being biased to Grenada, but you are very friendly and comfortable with Grenada, even Grenada hosting. Or what about Grenada that you feel that you yourself feel, or any of the members on here feel about Grenada hosting, or how you feel about Grenada hosting these games?
I'll let Brandon and I'll make a comment that Brandon and John will wish to.
Yeah, I can jump in. I wouldn't say it's bias, but I think it's experience, and experience on many fronts. One, you have the experience from the dedicated volunteers, and I want to shout them out. Everyone on the LOC, they do it for free. It's pro bono. It's national duty. Where they volunteer their time to execute these games. So one, it's based on the experience that they know what to do, how to do it, and do it well. And secondly, experience again as to the experience the athletes, the officials, the games family, even the international delegates. And we have also seen an unprecedented amount of World Athletics top brass who will be attending the games this year, and also other persons who have indicated from the athletics fraternity that they want to come down to Grenada to experience CARIFTA. So it's a holistic experience, not only from the execution, but how the patrons, the athletes, and everyone involved in CARIFTA feels after they experience CARIFTA. So I think that is one of the reasons that there's some level of comfort. But I won't say bias, because there are other territories that we could also point to who have the same level of experience in executing the CARIFTA games.
And just a short comment here. I had the opportunity to meet with a number of the Grenadan top officials and referees today as we look forward to moving ahead, and their experience from several of them worked with the CARIFTA Games back in 2000, but quite a few the last couple, and certainly the fact that it was just 2 years ago. People know how to do it, and they're looking forward to being able to show off their ability and to facilitate success for the athletes from across the region.
John, while you are that, Mr. Blackburn, what technical inspections must be completed prior to the CARIFTA Games?
Inspecting all the various venues, facilities, just being able to see the equipment, being able to see the equipment in operation, being able to see today, to be able to see a competition happening in real time, which allows us to say, yeah, that's the way we want to do it. And it gives all the officials and various meet administration people an opportunity to show what they do in a normal meet. And operationally, we want the competition to look pretty much like a normal meet, just cranked up because of the higher visibility. But operationally, it should be operationally just a track.
Yeah, and Mike, you mentioned briefly a while ago in response to a comment by Rudian, but the role that the private sector, and not just Grenada, because the CARIFTA Games is the region, okay? So whether it's Grenada or the Bahamas or whoever it is that's hosting it, they're hosting it on behalf of the region, right? So what role do you think the private sector or private sector partnerships, I should say, play in ensuring the smooth operation of an event as the CARIFTA Games?
Mike, is like beating a dead horse. Sponsorship, 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 financial support. It is always great to have in-kind finances. Okay, the challenge is also to have, hardcore dollars. And there has to be a value on the return on the investment. So obviously, this is why I'm saying we will take a different approach. And as soon as CARIFTA is over, we've got some tentative plans already on the drawing board. But our primary focus is getting over the next 45, 46 days to the completion of CARIFTA, and then delve right into the approach of the level of sponsorship that the event requires. In fairness, we do get a level of financial support directly from World Athletics, but based on what we would like to do, based on the incentive that we'd like to provide to the member federations, the support is not enough. And so we have to get corporate NACAC region, whatever that means, in terms of the big companies, the small companies, to be a part of it so that we can look forward to say, okay, yes, we have this amount set aside. So if we went to Grenada or whenever our member federations to say, would you like to host? Or if they knew that there was a level of financial support that's coming directly to them, right, then they'll be more inclined to raise their hands so we can give them more than the little allowance that we're allowed to give right now, because the funds that we have to be spread out to different regional events. Bearing in mind, we also have, for example, Central America that is a part of our region. So they have their events throughout the course of the year. And so we have to portion the limited funds that we have to ensure that we deliver at the best possible all of the events that are on our calendar for the development of our young people in our area. So it boils right down to financial support of NACAC Athletics, and by extension, the program for the member federations.
Yeah, well, I always argue the point, Mike, that when they ask about what do they get in return, especially sponsorship, when you look at most of the outstanding track and field athletes from the region, whether it's Usain Bolt or Kirani James, Veronica Campbell-Brown, just name it, from the Bahamas in the north, Guyana in the south, and you look at the top athletes who have had international stardom, they started at the CARIFTA Games. So if you have an interest in sponsoring or being part of their process when they hit international stardom, what's the problem in ensuring that you foment the new Kirani James and Bolt and whoever it is? That's the argument I usually try to make. I don't know if NACAC is not selling that idea.
Well, let's put it this way. Obviously, we are not doing a good enough job, and that's what I'm saying. We have to refocus our efforts and our energy, and I believe you'll see the results of that refocusing shortly after the CARIFTA Games. Matter of fact, you may see some of it during the course of the CARIFTA Games, because there are some things that we're working on that we hope to come to fruition as a part of the CARIFTA Games. One of which is we're hoping to have a wider broadcast of the CARIFTA Games. Others has never been done to the extent to which we're planning to do it this dispensation around. Okay.
Mr. Williams, you have a very important task as the organizational delegate. So the question will be, what matters most to visiting athletes, when they arrive at the CARIFTA Games? That, I mean, certainly, and for some of the athletes themselves and officials, they have probably gone to more than one. So for some, it will be their first experience in terms of the CARIFTA Games. But what do you think matters most when they arrive at the games and for them to feel comfortable and just focused and ready for competition?
I mean, it boils down to the same three main pillars. One, a comfortable bed, proper logistics in terms of transportation system to and from the stadium and also to training. Proper food, because that is one of the complaints. We have persons coming from different cultural backgrounds and different, dietary, how should I say, different types of foods that they eat. So it may be different from persons up north, what we eat down south. So these are some of the stuff. But also it boils down on having a good competitive environment, from a seamless core room and to their competition on the track. So it's these 3 or 4 main areas that the athletes look forward to, having a comfortable environment in general.
Mhm. And Mike, at the end of the games, we normally say for every game, this was one of the best. But from your experience, what separates a good CARIFTA game from an outstanding one? And I say good
Mm.
from a very outstanding one. What separates that? How do you determine, what is good and what is outstanding?
Well, like Brendan just indicated, right? Once you have all those things on tap, right, and meeting the expectation, actually exceeding the expectations of the participants and all the participants, including fan engagement, including the athletes and their comfort level, because the focus has to be on the athletes' focus level. And so, what separated is to get less complaints or minimum complaints. It's not to suggest that there have been complaints, because we take every event as a lesson to learn. So when we ask some questions, when we put some things forward, it comes back to maybe some things that had the potential to have a negative impact. And so we mitigate against that. And so an outstanding games would be minimizing any negative impact on the games.
Mm-hmm. Rudian, before you come in again, and that's for you gentlemen, is the CARIFTA Games still the most important youth athletics event in the Caribbean?
In the world.
In the world.
So it's not in the Caribbean no longer, because if you have to ask any track and field enthusiasts from the top brass in world athletics, some may, try to be political about it. But if you have to ask which is the most successful, the most important youth track and field event in the world, CARIFTA will be mentioned.
I want
And
to
Mike,
yeah,
just
go
to
ahead.
that, right? Again, I don't think people who are not directly involved like we are really understands what it, I mean, when Brendan said earlier, we've got 3 vice presidents, senior vice presidents of World Athletics. As a matter of fact, Brendan was going to send a note to one of them yesterday just to reconfirm his attendance. You know what he told Brendan? I'll respond quickly. He says, if I have to walk, this is for all the way from Europe. He said, if I have to walk, I will be there. So I said to him, well, you better start, because Brendan wanted to confirm the accommodations are available. And so when you've got 3 senior vice presidents, when you've got the president that has made it his business to attend the CARIFTA Games, and the rest of our European partners and our others who would love to attend, it shows you the significance of the games and what it has contributed to the development of our sport that has gotten us where we are. You yourself just said it, right? And don't forget, bearing in mind, this is the longest serving junior competition consecutively anywhere in the world. 53 years. You can't find any event that has had 53 years unbroken, except for the fact of COVID that held us up for 2 years. But beyond that, how do you beat it? How do you beat it?
And John, it means therefore that your work as a technical delegate really cut out, because you have to ensure that everything's in place, and because like for timings and measurements and all these things, because the CARIFTA Games is also a qualifier for a number of our junior athletes for world championships.
All the technical items have to be in place, not just for qualifying, but when and if we break a world's record or a world under 20 record, everything has to be in place so that that mark is unquestioned. And that's the approach that we're taking for all the events, so that they're put on in absolutely the top level in terms of bringing those athletes out at the proper time, making sure that the races are conducted properly, the hurdles are where they need to be, so that the discus or the shot put or the javelin is measured, the implement itself, as well as conducting the order of the athletes, making sure those measurements, make sure that the marks are displayed so the spectators can follow along. both here and afar. One of the remarkable things with the internet, in addition to being able to have a show such as this, is the ability for people uh, to pay attention to a specific athlete because they can't make it all the way to Grenada, but their spirit certainly can.
Okay. Rudian?
Yeah, so it is a question, Mr. Sands. It's a broad question. Have there ever been a time, or you guys ever speak of having inviting a junior athlete from a different country to coming in? Have any country ever reach out to you? Say they have a junior javelin thrower that would like to come in, non-medal, but to compete at the games? Have the CARIFTA Games open up for something like this? We in the Caribbean have such talent now that the rest of the world want to be a part of who we are. And is that a way to open up now that they're coming in to see the games and see what we have? Have there ever been a talk like that?
Well, I mean, persons have always inquired, but CARIFTA is CARIFTA for our region. They've got the NACAC. They've got the NACAC events, which includes all of our member federations, some 31 plus 4 or 5 associate members, right? But in terms of inviting other areas into the championship, that has not been one for major debate because it is germane to our athletes, our area. Now, again, there's been peripheral talk about some other events that could probably draw athletes in that would help us from the financial perspective. If you're talking about like maybe a relay invitational or stuff of that nature, but no, specifically to CARIFTA type of inclusion of others. No, we're not prepared to go down that road at this point in time. We want to focus on our development of our athletes through our CARIFTA program that benefits our athletes directly.
Okay, but just hold on, Rudian. So on that question, Mr. Sands, the broader issue therefore is that should the structure of the CARIFTA Games be modernized or expanded? I mean, sticking within the Caribbean region, should it be, modernized or expanded? The structure.
Well, when you say modernize, help me understand what you're thinking in terms of.
Well, you were referring to the thinking of discussing or consulting or whatever it is with probably other member federations, what they would like to see, in terms of the structure of the CARIFTA Games itself. Is there anything that you think that could be technical as well, that could be added or could be modified to make the games, as you say, a little more attractive and even more appealing for probably your sponsors as well?
Well, I mean, I think we are keeping pace with what needs to happen, what needs to keep the event exciting to the athletes and to the general member federation. When I say asking the member federations, I basically was referring to Rudian's suggestion that international athletes be invited to come in. And I'm saying at the end of the day, we've got a very, very succinct program. And if you talk about modernization, someone asked a question last year in Trinidad, for example, how do we see CARIFTA expanding? We would love to see CARIFTA expand, but we'd have to be real concerned because at the end of the day, bear one thing in mind. Each country is allowed a maximum of 80 athletes. Now, what you have is we have 31 countries, 26 member federations that usually compete in CARIFTA, give or take. Can you imagine if they all were able to meet that criterion? We're trying to move towards, and I'm encouraged when I see the level of increases that are happening in our small member federation, and not just for CARIFTA, but in terms of the success that the small federation, Brendan's federation is an example, St. Lucia is an example. We're getting on the podium. But so we're anxious to grow the program, but we have to be really cautious how quickly it grows because, first of all, how many countries can handle the mass increase of participation, and secondly, 80 members is not going to happen anytime soon. Is the point I'm making. But there is room for the program to grow by virtue of how it is already structured, and we just encourage member federations to keep their support of their programs and their participation within the event. We're not shutting the door on anything, but we want to continue to. We've been creeping and we're crawling. Now we're walking fast. We don't want to get into a full sprint, because at the end of the day, if 6 countries come with 80 members, that alone, going to create logistical problems for a member federation as a host.
But that is a possibility of happening. Now,
Yes.
I don't know if the CARIFTA Games, I know many countries have a standard that they go with for kids to qualify for the CARIFTA Games. Now, do the CARIFTA Games have a minimum standard to be a part of the games? And maybe it's something to look into, just in case you end up in that situation that we're talking about, where it's 80 per country or per federation. What happens if you have that now?
The answer to your question is no. There's no standard. It is designed. The member federation themselves, they determine how they want to select their team. As a matter of fact, I am not. I have difference of opinion with some of my colleagues, not necessarily on NACAC in specific, but in general terms, because I am always challenged when I see CARIFTA as a developmental meet in some quarters when I speak right to it, just informally. And some other persons have a different view, because they said, how do you call it a developmental meet when you've got world records and stuff being broken? And so that there's a strong argument for that, because I witnessed Usain Bolt's junior world record in Bermuda. I think it was 2003 or something along those lines. But I still maintain the view that it is developmental to the extent to which they're not, every country don't have a Usain Bolt or Shelly Ann or Veronica Campbell or Debbie Ferguson or Pauline Davis-Thompson, right? So we aspire to get there. And if we start putting in standards, then, what happened to the little small countries, the Anguillas, that maybe if we're fortunate, and hopefully we just came from there a couple of days ago, and we hope that they would bring in at least 4 or 5 athletes. But if you've got a standard, particularly if you don't have any facilities. So, all these things we have to take into consideration. So we leave it at the discretion of the member federation. And also, if I might add, that I've been advised prior to my involvement that CARIFTA was not intended to have winners. But everything, everybody goes to, okay, well, the Jamaica's won for the past 10, 15 years because they got more gold medals. The Bahamas has won over a period of time, right? And then they only count the gold medals. That's a topic for another discussion. But, we're evolving, but we don't want to evolve to the point, to your point, Julian, where it's okay, these are CARIFTA standards, and what do you measure the standards against? What do you measure the standards against? Well, what do you set it against?
Yeah, well,
So true.
That's true. I recall speaking to Sir Austin Silly back in 2015 in Toronto during the Pan American Games, and he did allude to the fact of the CARIFTA Games was one of more participation than winners, right? When it actually started, it was more participation, getting the young men and women of the region to participate.
And bear in mind, we only started, bear in mind, we only started with 4 member we only started with 4 countries, if you wish, 4 member federations. Now we're up to 26, 27.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
if I can ask a question, Michael, so forgive me for that question. It's very important. So Blackwood mentioned about records being broken, world records being broken, that everything have to be in place. Now the World Juniors is taking place in the United States, and there is the issues with visas. Where do you as NACAC stand for the athletes in those countries who may qualify for the World Juniors who do not have a visa? Is there a place that you guys are working with that to see that a visa work for them? You guys working with those federations? We don't know what's going to happen between now and the time to come. That ban or whichever the US may have might be no longer there. But is there a plan to help those athletes?
Well, I can tell you from where I speak. I don't know if John can speak to that or not, but I can tell you from where I speak. We just had the World Cross Country World Cross Country Championships in Tallahassee, Florida, and as you can imagine, there were a number of countries, foreign countries that would have been there. That would have these issues. And I can say this without fear of contradiction. The United States, through the USAC, United States Olympic Committee, has a great working relationship with the State Department, which is responsible. So I believe this, and I would say to any of my member federations, if you anticipate any issues, please, reach out to us as quickly as possible so that we can reach out. And because they actually had someone on site in Tallahassee who I actually spoke to about the same thing that you just raised now, Leon, right? What is the process if there's some challenges? So rather than going through that lengthy process just to be able to get an appointment to have a visa, there's a USFC has a liaison person that works directly with the State Department to assist member federations that intend to participate in the United States where it requires visa for entry.
Okay, that's very good. Yeah.
Gentlemen, what legacy should CARIFTA leave in the various islands? So in the case of Grenada, what legacy you think that the CARIFTA Games should leave for Grenada in 2026?
Well, Grenada, and I can again let my colleagues, I don't want to dominate, this is why I invite them to join me, right? But in case of Grenada already got a legacy. They did it, and and it just kind of came to me yesterday, right, Michael, when I was looking over my notes. You started off in 2000, then you came back in 2016, then it was 2020, 24, and then now we're in 2026. Do you know is anything significant about those years? They're even numbers.
Right.
Okay?
And this year will be 26 years since Grenada first hosted it. Yeah?
So I jokingly, but they're even numbers, the even numbers in the year ending. So I jokingly said in the meeting yesterday, so maybe we'll be back again in 2028, right? Or even more so, and I didn't get any laugh, but I said it too. Or maybe Grenada is home for CARIFTA Games, but nobody laughed at me, so they didn't think that was funny. But I think the legacy for member federations would be the full execution, because I'll tell you, for example, right, we found ourselves here because of a difficult situation, and I'm not going to name the federation, but we were put in a real tizzy because the federation that was supposed to do this, and not just once but twice, reneged on us at the very, very last moment. So their stigma, okay, is withdrawing from the CARIFTA Games that created a problem within the family that caused Grenada to be where we are today. And so the legacy would be able to host a successful games. And what it does, it forces structural improvements to facilities and equipment that is needed. So when we are gone, when the events are finished, there's an upgraded stadium. There's new equipment that hopefully the athletes and the coaches will take care of, because then it aids in their continuous development to the training methods and opportunities that would not necessarily have come if there was not a requirement to get X number of javelins at a certain level, which is now used on the regional stage, on the world stage. So those are the kind of things that, while you may not see it in tangible dollars, not to mention the economic benefit. And I'm gonna shut up on this point too, right? Because I'm saying too much. I'm not saying. When we did the hotel inspections, and Brendan can speak to it, we could not see the rooms that they want to show us. You know why? Because all of the hotels are filled. So there's an economic impact, and I mean it's happening now, but the economic impact that the event will bring to the destination is also a huge benefit to the country. I pause.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would see the curation of new champions, and the reason why I would select that point is that Grenada, in my opinion, is regarded as a track and field country. The level of planning and execution of small competitions on Wednesday, was it Wednesday? Thursday, I had the opportunity to go down to the stadium, and there was a primary schools meet, St. George's District Primary Schools meet. I could be wrong in terms of the name, but primary schools meet going on. Okay, going on in the stadium with there about 13 schools. And it was amazing to see that the games was being broadcast live, and they were using electronic timing for children under 11 years. And it demonstrates that, the CARIFTA Games plays part to that legacy, that they want to emulate the stars that they see in CARIFTA Games. So I'm calling it now. So within the next 10 years, you may be seeing more Olympians coming from Grenada by virtue of they seeing the constant track and field being exposed on an international standard in Grenada. Even we were told that even on the grass tracks in Grenada, there is electronic timing. And that augurs well for the sport, where the kids act as professionals from an early age, from the under sevens. So I think that is one of the biggest legacies that can be left. It is not something that is tangible, but that is something that will be realized through the growth or the continued growth of the sport. And we expect a full house today for the relay event. And that only it shows that through the hosting of events such as CARIFTA Games, that athletes want to be like those athletes they see compete live in Grenada.
You know,
And Mike, to put that in a nutshell, to put that in one sentence, inspire the next generation is a legacy that these events will hold. So like Brendan said, man, we saw these little kids, and they're excited. So what we're doing is inspiring the next generation.
Yeah, and I always will say that people ask me what about the CARIFTA Games you love so much that you always want to go to it whenever it's possible. And I say, the CARIFTA Games basically strengthen grassroots athletics, in the various countries, right? As you talk about inspiring the young folks, when they see the sort of competition, the rivalry, well, for some of them, the CARIFTA Games, they want to be part of that, They want to be part of the history. They want to be part of the competition itself. So I think it inspires a lot, whichever country. And one of the things I must say to Mike is I must give NACAC commendation for that and showing the streaming or whatever, the broadcast, particularly television broadcast of the CARIFTA Games over the years, even sometimes at cost probably to NACAC, that ensures that, folks, wherever you are in the Caribbean, can tune in and be part of the CARIFTA Games, because, normally no one wants to put something up or clash with the CARIFTA Games over the Easter weekend, because it's normally considered a family event. And talking about family, Mike, and folks, I really cannot, end this discussion without showing you something that you probably may want to talk about. In fact, they're my two granddaughters, having fun. Yeah. So, Mike, you want to tell us what's happening there and what we can expect come 2026?
Well, just imagine CARIFTA without John Canoe, and what we've got here. I'm a little biased, but it brings to the event a great fan engagement. So if you look at it, I mean, you've got from the Bahamas a John Canoe group that has like 100 and the group itself is only about 25 that comes, but then you talk about the family and friends that come on their own aircraft, Bahamas Air, which is another 150. Okay, and they come fully ready to perform and have a wonderful time, as you can see for yourself. Now we've got Trinidad, obviously, that we understand that took over a whole hotel. So they're bringing their family and supporters. Turks and Caicos brings their family and supporters, and of course, Grenada is home. So at the end of the day, it becomes, we have an instant rivalry with the family and friends, and so the innovation, the fan engagement is another plus for these events. And so you can see, as you can see for yourself, and anyone who has never experienced CARIFTA don't know what they're missing.
Well, the guy with the accreditation is actually a junior minister in Grenada, and that was in 2024. That's Mr. Quincy, and he's he joined in, and once he understood that Grenada would be hosting, he threw out a challenge for the John Canoe on their return that they will be ready, and probably we might just have a clash of the bands.
Well, I actually said that with Trinidad being here, with Grenada being here, and with the Bahamas being here, maybe we need to have the battle of the bands, particularly, and we forgot to mention this, because the LOC is also planning an entertainment center on the outside of the stadium between the two facilities. And so at the end of the day, that'll maybe something else that'll be done.
Yes, well, we all looking forward to this, certainly, with CARIFTA Games 2026 just around the corner. Actually, it's April 4th to the 6th at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. And it appears from all that we're hearing that, everything in place so far for the games. And, Mr. Williams, Mr. Sands, Mr. Blackburn, and others are already having, all the meetings and discussions with the LOC. And certainly you'll get a taste of what we can expect in terms of, I guess, as much organizational and technical when the relay meet takes place later on this afternoon at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium, because certainly Mr. Blackburn and others will see the officials, some I will say of the officials. Mind you, the real test for the CARIFTA Games will be in March 17th to the 19th, the Intersecondary Schools Athletic Championships, Intercall, which is considered second only to Jamaica in the region for its intensity over the 3 days, only 3 days, but because of its intensity and the level of rivalry among the competitors. So we're looking forward to that, certainly come March 17th to the 19th. Gentlemen,
Michael, just before you go, Michael,
yeah.
One of the things, when I speak to a few of my friends across the Caribbean, they tend to say that the CARIFTA Games is like the Olympics. And some of them who's going to go to the game, they sort of treat it like this. And I can see you guys do the same thing in terms of having everything in place. Because some of these athletes, they may never be in another CARIFTA Games. The same thing as Olympians. They may never be, and they may not even basically make it to the next Olympic Games. But some athletes may do. So certainly, you guys treat it as that, and the respect it has. So it's a legacy in itself for us as Caribbean lovers to track and field, and that's why you see many people travel from near and far, and families and countrymen coming for the games. It's just like the same thing as going to the Olympic Games. So certainly, what you guys are doing is awesome, and just continue the great work that you guys are doing.
Yeah,
thank you.
Rudy,
What's critical? What's critical to that too? I know we winding now. What's critical to that too is we've got a lot of U.S. coaches. They use it as a recruiting ground, and so when they asked me, I had a couple of calls just looking for athletes in general, and I said to them, I said, man, rather than trying to get your athletic department to spend money for you to go to different islands, convince them to come to CARIFTA Games because it's a one-stop shop. So you got the 15-year-old, the 16-year-old, right? And also, so the athletes that are in the pipeline, you will see the best that the Caribbean has to offer at a one-stop shop. So this also creates opportunities for our young people that aspire to get another level of education, that may not have the financial means to do it. And so it also serves a dual purpose, and we emphasize that very, very strongly as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on, Brandon, and then we'll get some, we have some questions there on the ticker. Go on, Brandon.
Yeah, so what I quickly want to say is that, it's our role to create the environment for these athletes to perform at the best of their abilities, because it is a springboard to launch them to whatever direction they want to go in their career, whether it be going into a high performance club or going to university. But we have to ensure that we create that environment to ensure that they perform to the best of their abilities.
Anything from you, Mr. Blackburn?
I just appreciate the opportunity to promote and inform about this amazing competition with its amazing legacy, and we're looking to continue that legacy again this year. So thank you. Okay
then. Mr. Mike McQuilkin is asking, when will Cuba and the Dominican Republic be allowed to compete? A reoccurring question, always get. Mike?
As I said, you've got in any sports activities, there's regions and there's areas, there's championship. The CARIFTA at this juncture is reserved for the members that are included, but the NACAC, we have our age group, which includes, we have our age group, which is under 15, under 13. We have the age group, which is under 18, under 23. They encompass all of our member federations. So there's no deliberate intent to disenfranchise our athletes from competing in any particular area. Central America has what is referred to as CADICA, which is their championship, but they're part of NACAC. But no member federations outside of Central America, for example, is a part of the CADICA championship. So it's not a discrimination, it's not a deliberate in terms of disenfranchisement, it's just the way the structure is. And who knows, maybe somewhere along the future, that may be something to consider, but at this juncture, it is not necessarily a part of the program at this time.
Okay, then here is another one. Paul, oh, good afternoon, Mr. TNT. Pleasant good afternoon to the distinguished panel and NACAC family. Warm greetings from Trinidad and Tobago. It is indeed an honor and privilege to extend our respect and appreciation as we continue working collectively for the advancement and development of athletics throughout our region. Paul Vosin, first Vice President, National Association of Athletics, Administration of T&T. Good afternoon to you, Paul. Always a pleasure having you. And, you know, Paul has been involved in track and field for many, many years. And he's one of my gifted photographers as well.
But to say, ever-present cameraman.
Yes, Paul is one that he doesn't give up his camera at all. And this is Clayton Clark. Clayton is from Tobago. Well, it's Trinidad and Tobago, but he's so much for his Tobago. You know, he doesn't leave out Tobago in anything. Question to Mr. Williams and Mr. Sands: what is the latest the arrangements for local and regional journalists?
Okay, so if I may jump on
we
that.
We raised that yesterday. Let Brendan speak to it. Clark, Clayton, just for your benefit, you would know that I specifically raised that question in the meeting yesterday. Brandon, as the OD, can speak to it briefly, but stuff is being put in place for you guys. But Brandon?
Yeah, so in short, they would have to contact their respective member federations to be registered as a journalist. And from there, they would work with the LOC to ensure that all arrangements and all recommendations will be provided to all journalists. So contact the member federations so that they could get them accredited.
Right. Another one is from Clev Deputy. They say scholarships in sports broadcasting, not only athletics, must be encouraged. It should not be seen as an afterthought or just an incidental major. Mr. Chenny Joseph is saying, good afternoon, gents, and happy Saturday to all. Already, all Airbnb are almost sold out for CARIFTA. However, Grenadians always make magic with accommodation and welcoming our guests. Maybe I may create a tent city if needed. Okay, Chetty, let us know when you finish with it. Yeah, Chetty, yes. Okay, gents, anything you want to leave us with in terms of if you can leave one message to Grenadians ahead of the 2026, what would it be? I should say, if you have to leave, not just Grenadians, but fans of the region, track and field fans of the region, CARIFTA family, what that message will be ahead of the CARIFTA Games 2026 in Grenada?
Well, for me, it is the one message I'd like to leave is that continue being the inspiration to our athletes, and we can inspire the athletes by supporting them. We, as from an organizational standpoint, we prepare the foundation, we prepare the environment, but we need to inspire the athletes by supporting them. Be it whether it's just sending out words of encouragement or sponsorship, because some of the athletes they need that help. We as organizations, member federations, NACAC, we do as much as we can, but it's still not enough to propel our athletes to stardom. So that's just one message I'd like to leave.
And Mr. San?
Well, obviously, we would want to have a full house for all of the events, and alluding to Brendan's point, support is critical. Fan attendance, athletes come, they'd love to see a full stadium. And so at the end of the day, not only that, the full stadium means that persons are purchasing. And as you know, like I said earlier, this was not totally on Grenada's radar. So I will take this opportunity, and I will do it in a more formal way, to really and truly thank the government of Grenada for supporting the federation to bring us to this juncture to realize these events. And while the gates may not be that critical to the overall budget, $1 makes a difference. And so we're asking the public to please come out and support the event, because that translates into an economic benefit to help offset the cost of the CARIFTA Games. Looking for a full stadium in Grenada for the 3-day events that will take place in Grenada.
Yeah, I think I'm certain, I'm confident that it will be a full stadium. Grenadians, they love their track and field. It's evident what you'll see later on, and then what you will see for the inter-secondary schools athletics championships, which is the intercall championships, will be live on and be streaming. So you can probably check in on it, folks, and you will probably get a vibes of what to come for the CARIFTA Games. Because certainly Grenada don't disappoint when it comes to supporting track and field. Michelle Stout is saying she joined late from Trinidad and Tobago, but what is placed for broadcast of the games this year? Certainly the...
I see my good friend Michelle Stout, as well as Voisin and as well as Clayton. So some things we can take offline, but we are working on ensuring that everybody is adequately covered, and that we try to meet the requests for those persons such as Michelle and my good dear friend Clayton. So we can take it offline in the interest of time.
Then. All right then. And Clev says, will Atto be there? He made an appeal. Any follow-up? Yeah, I know. Atto Bolin was on our program sometime last year, just after the World Championships, I think, yeah. And he made that well, not appeal, I would say. He said he's available for the CARIFTA Games, He says, CARIFTA will be in Grenada, boy. Yes, boy. Well, I can't miss that, I'm available,
Well, we have not heard in any formal way from Otto, but I can tell you that, like I said, we are making some plans to do some broadcasting, streaming and otherwise, but we have not heard. But anyway, like I said, there's some things that can be dealt with in the interest of time offline, but we have not gotten any communication directly from Otto or otherwise.
Okay, then that's something we can always work on. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sands, because certainly we know Arthur will bring that level of, the flair and what we need for the CARIFTA Games, because, it is, as we always say, and as Brendan is saying, not just Caribbean, global, it's world, right? It's the best youth track and field championships in the world. Mind you, there are folks who, from all over, I recall that was 2024 when it was in Grenada. Then they were getting comments from folks who were watching all the way from Australia, because that's what it is, Yeah, so we look forward to that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Blackburn, who is already, I think, in the stadium, because while you were speaking, we were hearing lots of talking in the back, so I think they're getting themselves ready for the championship. And yourself, Mr. Williams, Mr. Sands, I know you're all making preparations to leave the hotel for the games as well. Certainly you'll enjoy the championships, and always a pleasure. Hopefully we'll be able to chat sometime before the championships, or while probably the Saturday in Grenada, because for whatever it is, I would be able to miss. I can't miss CARIFTA Games. Once it's home, I can't miss it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you much. Thanks again for having us on board. Rudian, I'll wait to hear back from you, some other stuff.
Yes, certainly you'll hear from me. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then. Right. Yeah. So that's Mr. Mike Sands and also Mr. Brendan Williams. He is the organizational delegate to the CARIFTA Games, and thank you, Mr. Williams, for joining us. I know it's the first time on the program, but we'll have him again, so hopefully on that program again. And Mr. Sands, who's always there. Oh, Clayton, I missed that. Yeah, has NACAC considered having a media delegate for CARIFTA? Something probably you can, talk about later on. And God's willing, yes, yeah. Cleb says, God's willing, he will be there as well. I know quite a number of folks. I don't know for you in Toronto, but I know for New York City in particular, from New York, there are quite a few folks who will be heading off to the CARIFTA Games. So look forward to that. Rudian, there's something I wanted to put up there. I don't know how prepared is based on what you heard, Rudian, what would you say?
No, they are very prepared. Listen to Brendan. Brendan say it's next week they're ready, which is a good
Well, he
sign.
said that if it's next week,
Yeah,
if the game
it was
is the
next
same
week. It was next week they'll be ready. So it's a good sign. And as we heard, all they are waiting on is the countries to federation to let them know the numbers, so that they will make sure that they have everything in place. So
No,
certainly
the
that is
final,
yeah,
that's final entry.
yeah, the final entry.
Final
Yeah,
entry will be somewhere
yeah,
in March,
March
But
16th. So
normally,
yeah,
they will give an idea of what it's
yeah,
looking like in terms of initial things. So they'll have to book the
yeah,
rooms and all these sort of things.
yeah.
They will get final entries sometime in the
Entries,
end of
yeah.
March.
And they
Yeah,
have all the stuff in place. So I'm really, really pleased that things are in place. And that's why one of the things that I last week when we speak to Mr. Handel, we talked about certain things. It's about planning. You cannot. It's not a. It has to be a long term planning and putting things together, having the right people. If you hear people say, well, intercol is coming up, and you're starting to put stuff together in like November, you late already. You have to start, right after intercall is done, to plan for the next year. So certainly that's one of the things they are doing. The minute Grenada give the okay, they've been planning, and that's why everything could come in place like that. So I'm very proud of my country and my countrymen that they put things in place. And we always have to say that, Michael, we give all the kudos and all the respect to the government, because this couldn't be done without the say, the okay, and the yes. Um, we have to give the respect for that. Like I said, man, it's not being biased, but we have seen a government who believe in sports. Suddenly, yeah, I see you pose that question when a young lady asked the prime minister about other sports, like Olympic sports, that certainly that if we can get that in, and certainly his response was good. So certainly, and that's what I like to see, because we are sportsmen and sportswomen. We like to see that type of those questions from young people and the answers from the leaders who do make those decisions to make things happen. But certainly we are in a place where, Michael, I would say Grenada is in a place where we are about 90%
Mhm.
of of sports likeness. 90%. There's 10% of things we need to work on. But we are 90% in sports likeness, because we are not just talking about track and field. Track and field, we have the turnout. We want the same thing on every other sport. We want the support in every other sport. We want everybody to to give the attention to every other sport, and certainly that's what we talk about. In the next little while, we have cricket. We are asking for people to go out and support our people, support especially Afi Fletcher could be her last support. So those are the things we're talking. Not only in track and field, but in every sport. That's where we get the percentage in track and field with the support. We don't much get it in a lot of the other sport, and that's where the 10% is lacking. And once we get that and we get things in place, we are 100%. We Grenadian and Grenada will be the envy of the Caribbean.
Yeah. All right. Just stick a pin there on that. Let me see if I can get that.
Next question. My name is Kelly Mahan, and I am the deputy head girl of the school.
Hold on. No.
My question for the Prime Minister
Hold
is
on.
that seeing that
Yeah.
Olympics is in the next 2 years, is the government going to...
Yeah, I think we need to get this going there now.
Properly. Yeah.
That's the young girl, right? Yeah.
My name is
Yes.
Kelly Mahan, and I am the deputy head girl of the school. My question for the Prime Minister is that seeing that Olympics is in the next 2 years, is the government going to put more forward to sports such as boxing, taekwondo, judo, and fencing instead of just athletics?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I think it's more like a recommendation to the government. It's something that I certainly can take back to the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We appreciate that track and field is the dominant, in a sense, sport in Grenada, particularly amongst young people, and obviously fueled by the inter-secondary and inter-primary schools rivalry, and obviously by the success we've had on the international stage with our track and field athletes. But the other sports, cricket, for example, is becoming an Olympic sport. But some of the other sporting disciplines, swimming, as you can see, we're investing in the swimming pool so that we can actually try and produce even greater swimming athletes. But boxing, karate, judo, all of these are examples that we certainly could I think, support more and perhaps encourage more so that there are opportunities there for Grenadians as well.
Yep. So,
Certainly. Are we going to hold him? Are we going to hold him to that? As long as he's in power, as long as he's in the seat.
So, looking forward to that. So, folks, if you're in Grenada, the National Relay Meet on today at the stadium, the athletic stadium. You can, that's the Kirani James Athletic Stadium, I should say. I think it starts at 3 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, which is 2 o'clock Eastern time. And you can look forward to lots of action there. I think it may be streaming. So if so, I will share the link. And then Clayton Clark, yes, I will get some of that information across to Mr. Sands and others regarding that. I know they have been circulating from the local organizing committee point of view. They have been circulating information as regards to the media accreditation. But as Mr. Williams said, if you contact your member federation, you should be able to get the accreditation form because they have sent the accreditation form to all the member federations. But you can get that. It must be approved, I understand, by the member federation, and then you can always send it to the local organizing committee in Grenada for your accreditation. One of the things I want to stress on the local organizing committee regarding the accreditation is that 2024, on the day of the sports, there were a number of journalists who did not have their media accreditation, even though they sent in their information weeks before. And I hope that can be corrected because I recall, trying to assist some of them on D-Day. We're talking about when even competition started, some of them were still outside the stadium trying to get themselves sorted out. And these are things that we need to get organized. I think most times they ask for the journalists to provide information in terms of their arrival and probably where they're staying and things like that. So, and if that is so, then try to get things organized because some of them went to the accreditation center. They went to the accreditation center, but it was not ready. And they were told that it should be ready on the morning of the first day. And when they got there, it still was not there. So these are things that we need to get straightened out. And I'm certain Mr. Hippolyte and his team will get things organized.
And it's something that I spoke about too. Like I said, Brendan, Mr. Sams bring up the question. Brendan give his, the answers towards it. So it's good that they're working on the things that there was issues on. So which is a good thing, and that shows great leadership in that department.
Yeah. All right then. So thank you very much, Rudian. Thank you very much for being on.
It was a pleasure. So it was a pleasure.
We'll have another program come next week, God's willing. I know it's as I said in the start, it's a blizzard weekend. So here in the Northeast,
Yeah, we are okay. We expect something. I noticed I see on the television all weekend through Monday or Tuesday. I think we get some more snow. But right now we having rain, so it's kind of melting out what is on the ground. But it's too warm. I'm nervous because it's quite warm outside, and when it's warm like this, then something is coming. So certainly, let's hope. Yeah. But I'm tired of the winter, Michael. I'm tired now. It's too much now.
I was asking God, it should have been a nice getaway to like Grenada, so you could be enjoying the relay meet this afternoon.
Yeah. One day, we'll do that, Michael. It may not be today. One day.
Right. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you again. All right then. Yeah.
Okay. So that's Rudy and Sylvan, co-hosts in Toronto. And folks, what I'll do, I'll leave you with the songs and sights of the Junkanoo of CARIFTA Games 2024 in Grenada.